Harihi Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Krupatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. Om. So, we are in the 38th shloka of the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The shloka goes like this. यद्यप्येतेन पश्यन्ति लोभोपहत चेतसः कुलक्षयकृतं दोषं मित्रद्रोहे च पातकम्. So going word by word, yadi api ete, yadyapyete is made of yadi, if, api, even, ete, they, these, the army or the sons of Dhritarashtra that is being addressed here. Na pashyanti, do not see. Lobha upahata chetasaha. Lobopahata chetasaha is lobha. Lobha is greed. Upahata is overpowered. Chetasaha, the intellect, the mind. Kulakshaya is the destruction or something that brings a downfall to the kul, the lineage. Kritam dosham. Kritam is causing, and dosham, he is referring to it as a dosha, which is like a sin. It is a fault. Mitra drohe, the act of betrayal of a friend. Cha patakam, and a misdeed. Right. So even though they are not seeing it, he is addressing, saying that this is what they are missing to see. Now, for this shloka, we will take a small story from Mahabharata. The intent is to emphasize the importance of kulam. It will also give some high-level clarifications on Samnyaasa. Who is eligible for Samnyaasa? What is Samnyaasa? We will try to go into that. This story in Mahabharata comes in Vanaparva, right? When they are in the forest, when the Pandavas are in the forest. The story is about a young guy by name Kaushika. He was born when his parents were pretty old, and from childhood, he was very spiritually driven and excited to learn Shastras. At one point, he quit his family, which was much against the wishes of his aged parents, and went to the forest for penance. So one day, when he was meditating, a crane came on top of the tree and started making loud, rattling noise. It's called as bugle calls. It is said that the sound of a crane can be heard up to 2.5 miles away. So just imagine how loud it was, and it is right on top of him. This disturbed Kaushika, and as he looked up with anger, just the sight of his burnt the crane into flames. It just burst into flames. Kaushika realized the kind of powers that he has gained because of the penance. Then he decides to go to the village to seek bhiksha, which is a normal thing that these kind of, those who take up sannyas do. Because when you take up sannyas, you are prohibited from handling fire. So bhiksha is the only way that you should live. Right. So now he goes to seek bhiksha, and when he approaches a house and he's just asking for bhiksha, the husband comes in. The lady asks Kaushika to wait. Just wait. I will attend to my husband first. He feels very insulted. He says that I have such great powers, and you are asking me to wait. So he angrily looks at the lady, and lady responds, I am not a crane. This shocks him because nobody else should have known about this incident with the crane. He was all alone in a forest. How come this lady knew? So, very, what do you say, surprised by her remark, he inquires, how do you know about it? How do you know about what happened to the crane? She responds, my duty is to take care of my family. For the kind of questions that you have, I think you should better go and meet a person by name Dharma Vyadha in Mithila. So he departs for Mithila. Upon reaching Mithila, he is shocked to see Dharma Vyadha, a butcher by profession. So he asks Kaushika to wait as he has to attend his business. Now there is some big business going on. He has got people, customers coming and going. Now he cannot be sitting there and talking Vedanta or other spiritual aspects. So he says, wait. And Kaushika patiently waits. In the evening, Dharmavyadha gives him the upadesh about the duty of one to take care of one's family. Now, he also clarifies that killing for the sake of killing is a sin, but to kill to survive is not only not a sin, but is also essential to live. So he makes it very clear that this is very, very important. Now, when he reaches the house, he's very, he joins with the family and stuff like that. It's very nicely described there in terms of how you must attend to your family, how you must attend to your other functions while continuing your path of moksha, of knowledge. So that is the greatness about this story. Now, this leads us to another aspect. This comes later in Bhagavad Gita as well. We will talk about it more in Bhagavad Gita, but the highlight is path to moksha is not samnyasam. What is sannyasam? Right? Us is to throw away, letting go, right? Taking yourself out of it. Ni represents nishchayena, with total determination. It is not like I have let gone, but carry things in my heart. When I have let gone, it has gone totally. We will talk about it in the second chapter as well, when we are talking about Sthita Prajna Lakshan. Prajahati Yada Kaman, Sarvan Partha Manogatan is the way Bhagavad Krishna will speak there. But the fact is, renunciation is to let go. Some is totality, ni is nishchayena, us is to throw away, to just get away from it. That is called as sannyasa. However, the path to moksha is not sannyasam as an ashrama, as a value or as a way of life. So when we are talking of the term sannyasa, we are talking of at a mind level, at a mental level, B, at a ashram level. Ashram level is where take up another form of discipline. Grastha ashram is one form of discipline. Vanaprastha is one form of discipline. Right? So when I take up a specific ashram, I have to abide by the disciplines of that ashrama. But at a mindfulness level, if in case I do a sannyas, I don't have to be a sannyasi as in the ashrama of sannyasa to be able to attain sannyas. That is the most important value that one must keep in mind. When we come to the ashrama, the question is, when am I eligible to take up Samnyaasa ashram? First thing is, in the purpose of life is described in 2 words, or we can call it as 4 words also, because each word is joined together. One is called as Kshetra Paripaalana, and another is called as Dharma Rakshana. So, Kshetra Paripalana is a very, very important duty that one has to do. No matter, even if in case the person is a jnani, the Kshetra Paripalana is very essential. The only difference is, for a jnani, the Kshetra vanishes into Prakriti. Right? So long as he is part of that Prakriti, he has to serve that Prakriti. He has to be part of that Prakriti cycle. Right? So that is very essential for anyone, no matter what that person is. So Kshetra Paripalana is essential. Now, when the need to serve my Kshetra is not binding, is one of the conditions for you to take up the Samnyaasa ashram. The problem is, the Kshetra is always binding if you look at it from one point of view, right? Which is, the demand is never ceding, it will never end. So the question is not how to see that dependence. The dependence must be valued not based on the convenience or the, what do you say, or the being a bhokta in it, right? In terms of consuming, in terms of experiencing, it should not be from that point of view. It should be from the point of view of the existence and the nourishment of the kshetra. So when the need to serve a kshetra is not binding, that is when I become eligible for a sannyas. When I have attained an absolute vairagya and have a mumukshutva, this is the other condition. As you can see, I have put an or condition in this place. So it is not necessary that, what you say, the binding has to be, what you say, completely gone and this one has to be taken. No, there is a or condition. When I have attained an absolute vairagya, in the story of Kaushika, what happens is he has not attained that maturity. When he saw the power, he fell for the power, which means he does not have that vairagya, viveka, the sadhana chatushthaya sampatti that we call about. And when he does not have, he is not eligible for sannyasa ashrama. Right? So if you have that absolute vairagya, a total maturity, an absolute mumukshutva, then also you are eligible to take up sannyasa ashrama. The best example is Gautama Buddha. Right? When Buddha renounced his family, he had total vairagya. And that can be seen in the entire story, even before he attained the, what do you say, jnana nishta. Right? His vairagya could be seen in every place. His viveka could be seen in every place. There are some arguable instances in terms of logical correctness when you go through the story, but it is very, very matured in terms of the viveka that he had. So vivekam, vairagyam, his mumukshutvam was so strong, right? Shamadamadi, that is the next, what do you say, characteristics, Shat Sampatti, the six, right? The Shamam, Damam, Uparamam, right? So here the intent is, you can see that in Buddha. So the best example I will say is Buddha for taking up the sannyasa ashrama. Now, in the example of Kaushika, not only that he was the only child, he also had the responsibility of serving his parents. So, given the situation that he failed in both, in terms of kshetra, not binding, it was binding, right? The second is, when he has attained an absolute vairagya, which again he failed. So given that he failed in both, he was not eligible technically for the sannyasa ashram. Just to re-emphasize, because it is there in the slide, we don't have to look at emotional needs of others in determining whether binding or not. Okay, that is the very important thing. As I mentioned earlier, yati dharma is a separate study. As a yati or a sannyasi, the role of Kshetra Paripaalana does not change. Only the Kshetra changes, not your duty towards the Kshetra Paripaalana. Taking the example of Dharma Vyadha, and several times, particularly in the Fijian community, I have come across this question about eating meat. Is it wrong to eat meat? Why is it that we should not eat meat on these days? This kind of questions. And especially from the youngsters, these kind of questions comes a lot. And unfortunately, there are several who are, basically karmakandis who do pujas, etc. But they do give an advice in terms of you should not meet, etc. So there is a little bit of misguidance that they face, right? So to clarify, it is not wrong to eat meat. Just know that meat as a food is either rajasic or tamasic in nature, which will have an influence in your antakarana. For you to become sattvic, you need to give up eating meat for pleasure. However, for survival, you can still eat meat. The example that we generally give is Trishanku, a Purvaj of Sri Ram in the Ishvaku dynasty. Right? Trishanku Swarga is something that is very well known. He eats Kamadenu when there was this extreme drought in the in the country at that time, right? Because he is far before Ram in the dynasty, right? So what happens is he eats the cow that he goes to fetch for uh, sage Vasishtha, and Vasishtha curses him, and what is he? A separate Swargaloka is created, right, by Vishwamitra for him. Right, so that is called as Trishanku Swargam. It is neither the Swargam nor not the Swargam. Right, so that is one of the very famous stories, right, that comes in the Purans. The fact is, eating meat is not considered to be an offense. You just need to know what you're eating and what it has as an effect. And again, even if Amrit is taken too much in quantity, it is bad for you. So there are conditions both in terms of quantity as well as the nature of what you are eating. We will talk about it in the 17th chapter, right, as to what is a kind of food that is sattvic, that is rajasic, and that is tamasic, etc. So the bottom line is I added this as specifically something to address the, particularly the Fijian Indian community, I should say, where they have this question of why should I not eat meat? Given the question that on specific days, why is eat meeting permitted or not disallowed, etc., anything, if it becomes a habit, is bad. In order to prevent the formation of habit, it is always good to create a discipline. And how do we create the discipline? By embracing devotion to the God. So what we can do, or what typically the Fijians do, is on Monday, I will not eat meat. On Friday, I will not eat meat. Right? So it is not required to be standard as well. Right? The idea is it is not you become dependent on it. Right? But this can lead to another form of dependence, which is waiting for the following day to eat meat. it is better than not having to eat meat at all times. I'm not saying don't eat meat. In fact, don't eat food at all. Ekadashi Vrata. Right? So you are absolutely required to come out of anything that binds you. That is the objective. Right? Don't become dependent. Moksha is becoming independent. And in the process of becoming independent, there are several recommendations, disciplines that enable you to overcome that. So that is what is to be kept in mind. The example of Dharma Vyadha I took because he was a butcher, which means even at that time, there were people who were eating meat. Right? When there was no Christianity, there was no Islam or any other religion, there still were people who eat meat. So eating meat is not the issue. The issue is becoming dependent on it, becoming a bhokta of anything for that matter. That is the whole concept of removing that bondage that is trying to hold you up. That is the exercise of all the recommendations that we have, all the disciplines, all the, prompts that you get on Shivaratri, you do this, on Ekadashi, you do this, etc. Right? Keep a Chandrayan Vrat at least once in a lifetime. All these are beautiful means for you to overcome that which is keeping you bonded. That is the main value that I wanted to speak for this shloka. Going into the shloka number 39. Katham nagyeyamasmabhihi papadasman nivartitum kulakshaya kritam dosham prapashyadbhirjanardhana. So here, katham na nyeyam. Katham is why, na not, should not, nyeyam, be known. Asmabhihi, by us, papat, from sins, asmat, these, nivartitum, to cease, to remedy the situation, which leads to kulakshaya kritam. Kulakshayam. Kshayam is downfall. Kulam is our lineage. Kritam is that which makes it happen. Dosham, harm or crime. Prapashyadbihi, by those who can see this clearly. Pra as a prefix, as an upasarga, emphasizes clarity. Prakashena. Prapashyadbihi. Pashya is to see. Right? Pashyabidbihi is to see it by those who can see. Janardana, O Lord Krishna, one who protects the world. Right? Janardhana, right? Katam asmabihi na jneyam. Why should we not know nivartitum, how to seize, how to correct the situation, course correct. Papat kartum, the sinful act. Parpashyadbihi, with an understanding by those who can see, that is us, with an understanding, who have this ability to see it, right? To prevent the dosham of kulakshayam, that which brings a downfall to our kul. So for this, I took the story of Sahadeva. Remember, this is not something mentioned in Mahabharata, the original version, right? It is there in various regional stories, and it is even known across, right? Even in several, what do you say, the serials that have been created in Mahabharata, they have included this as a version, but it is not there in the original version. So the way that it happens is Sahadev is considered to be one among the best astrologers. So what Shakuni does is he prompts Duryodhan to go to Sahadeva and ask for a Muhurat, which will be very favorable to the Kauravas in winning the war. Okay. So Duryodhan goes to Sahadeva. Now Sahadeva knows the intent, the purpose, and the side Sahadeva will be on. Yet he creates the Muhurat, which is accurate and gives him that Muhurat to Duryodhan. However, Lord Krishna manipulates or creates an illusion which makes the Muhurat to be missed by Duryodhan. Otherwise, they would have won the war. As I mentioned, this is only a story that is there not in the original Mahabharata, but on various traditional approaches that has been given. As per Veda Vyasa's original Mahabharata, it was Lord Krishna who decided the date for the war after the final negotiations failed in Hastinapur. So that is the way it goes. However, the intent is to see the importance of upkeep of dharma, right? When you are performing a specific act. Here, Sahadeva was performing the act of being an astrologer. You should maintain the dharma of the astrologer. At that time, I am not Sahadeva. I am an astrologer. I am not part of Panchapandavas. I am an astrologer. Right? That clarity should be there. When I am in this particular role, then this role supersedes me from even the Samanya Dharma. Right? That which the Veda speaks as Dharma can be overridden with vishesha Dharma if that vishesha Dharma comes up first. Right? That is what is to be kept in mind in terms of maintaining or upholding the Dharma. Going into the 40th Shloka. Kulakshaye pranashyanti kuladharma sanatanaha dharme nashte kulam kritsnam adharmo bhibhavatyuta. So in this shloka, kulakshaye, in the destruction of the entire kul, pranashyanti, nash, nash is a very common word, which is to destroy. Pra is prakashena, I mean total destruction, pranashyanti, to be completely lost, to be completely destroyed. What? Kula dharma, the family traditions, the dharma that is followed by the kul. We have seen this happen in several other places also. Like, even for example, when we do the dahanam of the one who has passed away, you will see there are people who will make the body in a sitting position and take it. There are some who will put it in a sleeping position and take it, and so on. So there are various ways. Every kul has its own dharma, has its own predictions that it follows. The example of how they perform is merely an indicator. Don't fall for it saying that that is what is kula dharma. There can be several nuances, something which is binding in your kul. Observe that and promote it. That is your duty in terms of Kshetra Paripaalana. So that is what is Kula Dharma. That Kula Dharma will be totally lost. Sanatanaha. Sanatanaha is to emphasize that eternally. Right? So basically, there is a total, eternal, or complete destruction. Means unrevivable destruction of Kula Dharma. That is what is the emphasis that Arjuna is making here. Dharme nashte, when the traditional values, the dharma as in the Kula Dharma, are destroyed, kulam kritsnam, the entire society. Kritsnam means the entire, totality in this case, right? So which means all the kuls will be destroyed. Adharmaha, because adharmaha will prevail. abhibhavati, will dominate, will overspread, will conquer. Uta, it is said. So he is now quoting what is said generally in the society. Hey, uphold your Kula Dharma. Otherwise, the Kul will be destroyed. Not only the Kul will be destroyed, it will spread across and the entire society will be destroyed. We need to understand, unlike the Semitic culture where the governance is based from a top-down approach, perhaps there is a pope or there is a father or something like that, and then it comes across, right? So they have specific directions and mandates, and you are expected to bind yourself to that. Whereas in the Sanatana Dharma, it is your kul, you upholding your kul, and these kuls together forming a society. That is the emphasis that we have. And if a kul is destroyed, then the society will be destroyed. And that is so very true. You can see it in every kind of, society that has been destroyed. Egypt is known for its remarkable culture. But today, Egypt is Islam, right? If you take the Roman culture, right, we can still see the Roman temples, right? If you go to Bath in United Kingdom, there is a Roman temple. If you go to Italy, you can see so many aspects totally gone. There is no evidence of that kul existing at all, right? Of the entire society has been destroyed. Well, the people do live. I'm not saying the people are destroyed. Now, that aspect, that beauty that they were bringing into the world is lost forever, right? We talk about various animals getting extinct. So the term extinct can be applied to the Roman culture, right? Mayan culture, the same thing, right? So I have seen, I was in Guatemala and I was seeing the richness of the tradition being confined to the exhibition where we are able to see some of those cultures, right? You can see it when you go to Mexico, right? If you go to, there are various places, right? Some of the names are not even coming, right? So I think, no, not Punta Cana. Forgot the name. It's not coming to my mind now. Anyway, but there are various, you can still see the rich culture there. But rich culture, as in you cannot see the culture there, you can see evidences of rich culture there. But it has been totally lost. Here, Kulam Kritsnam is an emphasis on that aspect. The greatness of Sanatana Dharma, despite what 1,300 years of constant invasions by those other cultures, the Vedic culture has stood because it stands on the interwoven relationships of kul. It is not that one kul is great, my kul is better or your kul is better. I have seen this being promoted a lot in the recent movies. Yes, there have been I versus you kind of fight at all times. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. But the truth is the kul has to get interwoven to form the society. That interweaving was done through the Vedic aspects, through the dharma as an aspect. And that is reason why this particular thing is called as Sanatana Dharma, that which exists forever. Everyone has to take care of themselves, yet be dharma driven. Right? That is the greatness of Sanatana Dharma. Well, that was a little taking off from the main course, but the intent is to say that kulam kritsnam, right, the entire society, when kula dharma, dharme nashte, or pranashyanti, when that happens, the entire society will be impacted. That is the importance that he gives. Now, for this, I took from the Rig Veda. Right. So King Bharata was attacked by 10 kings. The name of this king is called as Sudas, but Sudas is in the lineage of King Bharata. and hence he is called as Bharata. Also, you'll see Bharata as being used as a reference to Arjuna, as being used to as a reference to Yudhishthira. Right? You can see that in several places. So that Bharata is representing one who has come in the lineage of King Bharata. This aspect in Rig Veda is from King Sudas. Right? Now, what happens is there will be 10 tribes. Tribe is the word that, what do you say, they are using. So I'm also using it. But there will be 10 kings who will be attacking Sudas simultaneously. He fights a very beautiful war, a great war, and he wins. Rig Veda doesn't speak at length about what was the war. Like in Mahabharata, every aspect, every day is very beautifully defined. Right. So that is the big thing about Mahabharata. That is not the way Rig Veda approaches. It just says that 10 kings were there who attacked King Sudha or Bharata simultaneously, and Bharata fights and he wins those 10 people. Now, upon victory, King Bharata organizes an assembly of scholars headed by uh, Vasishta, sage Vasishta. Now, there are some, it is interpretations, not Vedic, right? Veda doesn't define anything much, but there are interpretations which say that sage Vasishta was not originally from the kingdom of Bharata. He was not from the original kingdom which won the war, but he was one among the most scholarly. And he became very close to King Bharata after that, or King Sudas after that. And he was appointed as the chief of that assembly. The importance of Kula Dharma can be traced back to this period. Right? So the thing is, there, the emphasis was not, I have won, so you are my subjects. Right? This is the way the society should function. And this is the way that we should honor the various forces that are helping us survive, right? Be it sun god, or be it Vayu, or be it, what do you say, the rain god, right? Varuna. And it can be anything that you can take off. Now, all these aspects were included culturally, but not disturbing the traditions or making the traditions bind by it. So traditions had an independent growth while weaving through the importance of dharma as established in the Veda. This is the greatness that can be traced back to the Rig Veda, the original Veda. Right. So Sanatana Dharma thus started emphasizing on the growth of the society based on the growth of the kul. Right. Now, when you look at the Purushartha, we need to understand what is Purushartha. We know that it is defined to be the four: Dharmam, Artham, Kamam, and Moksham. With respect to the duties and directions, we can categorize it into two, which is Kshetra Paripaalana and Dharma Rakshana. Now, let us look at the concept of birth and rebirth. If you pay close attention here, we always speak of, birth, and in the next birth, you can be a crocodile, or you can be a lion, or you can be a Gandharva, right? You can become anything in that. Now, this crocodile or the lion is not this kul or this lineage, right? That needs to be understood. That my lineage keeps changing. So the concept of pitru arises here. In other words, the entity of this family lineage is something that you cannot trace back to a root. If you trace back to the root, the same question arises: did the egg come first or the chicken? And that you can never go up to the past. But one thing for sure, you know that you had a grandfather who had a grandfather and who had a grandfather too, right? So we know that this particular lineage existed. This conceptual entity defined for this loka, for this world, for this entity, is called as pitru. Now, whether there is something really called as a Pitruloka, whether there is some entity really called as a Pitru, etc., is not the question here. The question is, or is not the concept that is being addressed here. Now, if we have to talk to that concept, then we cannot have a material-based scientific evidence that can be attributed. Because this pitru is a concept that happens pre or post birth or death, right? So it is before or after our current existence that the concept of pitru is being addressed in terms of loka, in terms of entity, etc. So for convenience and logical argument, one can say that this lineage is something that I can never negate. And this lineage is what do you say? This lineage is the one that is conceptually addressed with the term called as pitru. Now, let us talk about this conceptual entity exists, which we all know it exists. The second thing is, I as a jivan exist till the time I attain a moksha. That is also very much understood. In other words, there is going to be a concept of birth and rebirth. Scientifically speaking, that which is, what do you say, energy can neither be created nor be destroyed, and mass can neither be created nor be destroyed. So in whichever form you take, you cannot be destroyed. It is just that your form may change, your energy may change, but this cannot be destroyed. So as a jivan, I have a continuum in my existence. That is also known. So now let us make it convenient for us to understand. Now, there is a jivan called as X. Now, this jivan has got accumulated sins and, what is it, bad deeds, papam, right? Sins and good deeds, punyam, papam and punyam, are there accumulated by this X. This X, Bhagavan says, hey, you are entitled to become a human. You can go. So I go, go to the Pitrus and I say, hey, will you allow me to take birth in your, what do you say, lineage, so that I can take a form and attain my moksha? The Pitru says, I don't mind, you can definitely join in my lineage, but you have to keep my lineage alive. When that condition is met, he allows me to be born in his lineage. This is a simplistic way of looking at it. When you are born in this lineage, you have got two, what do you say, functions that are associated. Why did you take birth as a human being? To attain moksha. So you have to pursue your effort in going towards that moksha, which is what you're doing right now. At the same time, you have the duty of Kshetra Paripaalana, which is the promise that you made to the Pitri, right? The Pitri allowed you to be born as a human being. That forefather allowed you to be born as a human being because he wants his lineage to continue. When he wants his lineage to continue, it doesn't mean I have to have a child, what do you say, etc. It may be child is one of the means, right? But lineage to continue means, remember, this Pitra, if you go back, your grandfather's grandfather's grandfather had 3 brothers, 5 brothers, and 5 brothers are distributed. So the Pitra has continuously become large. So even if you don't feed, it is not that Pitru will not be affected. or pitru will be destroyed. It will be affected. That's it. Right. So the question is, how is it that the pitris are being taken care? Is through some pitru karyam, so that we are mindful of that lineage, and by continuing on the kula dharma. That is the second aspect of it. So I have to continue, and I have to take care of my purpose, which is to attain the moksha. Right? This we have to really grind in our mind. Second thing is, if you fail to do something, then you you can assume it. Now again, I'm just going to make it easy for understanding. Let us say I commit a sin. The Shastra says it affects you, right? I accumulate sin, but I also leave a cut, or I also leave some kind of a uh, injury to the lineage, right? If I'm going to be a thief, that entire lineage will be cursed, right, by the society. It is a very natural thing, right? They don't individualize it, right? They still look at the entire, the at least up to the father, what kind of a raising that you have done, kind of a thought is always there. What it means is, it is not that racing is bad. What it is basically signifying is that you have created a small injury to the body of this lineage, right? If you are an Athathai, then you create very big, what do you say, cut. If in case you are a small time, what do you say, Adharmi, then you create small cuts. That is one thing that they talk about. In tradition, it is also said that in the kul, even if one person attains the moksha, all the injuries in the body of the pitru will be removed. But the new ones will start getting what do you say, start getting accumulated at the same time. But that is to signify the greatness of moksha. Right. So don't take it very literally, but this is a nice way of putting the purpose of life, which is both Kshetra Paripaalana, which comes down to Kula Dharma, and Dharma Rakshana, which is done by following the path of Dharma. If we analyze the Shloka, Arjuna is holding himself responsible for the possible destruction of the Kul. Remember, he was wrong there, because it is not death which brings an end to the kul. By adharma, the kul is harmed by Duryodhan, not by Arjuna. Right? Because Duryodhan is continuously following the path of adharma, and he is continuously hurting the kul. So that protection of the lineage is the purpose of the war, and not, if somebody dies, the dharma will be destroyed. The death does not bring an end to the kul. Rather, it is not following the dharma which brings an end to the kul, and Duryodhan was clearly not following the dharma. I will go one step further. I will say that both Dhritarashtra and Duryodhan were the adharmis, which led to the downfall of that, what do you say, tradition, while the dharma was upheld by Lord Krishna and the Panchapandavas. Right? The important the mantra from the the Upanishadic statement that needs to be remembered is dharmo rakshati rakshitah. It is the protection of the dharma that you do which will protect you. Right? I must be following the dharma for that dharma to protect me. Story of Karna is one of the best example, where Lord Krishna himself says that you failed, And now you expect the same dharma to protect you. Right? That in itself is wrong. Only that dharma which you protect will protect you. And Duryodhan was the one who was not protecting the dharma, as such bringing the harm to the kul. And the war is essential there because all other negotiations failed. Arjuna was not looking into it. He started seeing the destruction of the kul in the death of a person. So with this, we can go to Shloka number 41. While I can definitely go into it, today I'm going to stop here because I have another meeting at 7:30. Or I have told them that I may be a little late, so not a big deal. But I have another meeting that follows. So I thought I will start the Q&A now so that we can complete it. And once it is done, we can definitely drop off and I can jump into the call. Okay. Thank you all. If the reminder comes. Okay. Prabhakar.
Not like a question, but throughout when you were talking about the full, I was wondering why uh, about full when nothing had at that point of time, nothing had really happened. It was not yet destroyed. Still, the war is in progress. Only when you were coming to the close, I really understood. Okay, it's about the acts that they were doing, which spoils the full, and not the literal death of a person. Now I can relate better. Thank you.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you. Yeah. Maybe the narration was a little lengthier. Maybe I should have addressed it first, which could have set the context even more clearer. But I was just following what my thought had when I was creating the slides. So, yeah. Sham Bhaiya, namaskar.
Namaste, Najji. Not much, just maybe some other time, not today, but perhaps understanding the various categories of dharma and is there an overlap or hierarchy? How does it all work through? Is something that definitely would help. For example, you talked about Kula Dharma, you talked about Ashrama Dharma, and then I also keep hearing Swadharma. So, question is, how do they all interplay and how do they all aggregate?
Awesome. Sure. Actually, we did cover about this subject early on in, I think, the second or third class. Unfortunately, we had not gone YouTube then. So what we can do is I can try to see if in case the recording is available or even the audio recording is available and try to bring it up and artificially create it. If
Okay,
not,
if it was already covered earlier, then fine. Yeah, the recording will be good enough.
yeah, if not, we will definitely spend some time on this because having a clarity on this dharma adharma vivekam is very, very important. So
Sure.
it is not a problem even if in case we have to touch it again.
Okay.
So, sure. Thank you. Thank you for that note. Okay. Uh, Jyoti ji.
No questions, Nashji.
Thank you. Shubha ji.
No questions, Nashri. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, then it is 7:28. It gives me time, 2 minutes to join back into my other meeting. So thank you all. And we will connect again next week with Shloka number 41. Harihi Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.